Okay, great. Welcome everybody. This is the September 2025 edition of the ANC 1B Transportation Parks and Public Spaces Committee. It looks like the attendees have slowed down, so it's a good time to start. I am going to start with the roll call. And I'm just going to go through how I have it on my chart on the agenda. So Julius.
Present.
Santiago. Not here yet. Zoe.
Present.
David.
Present.
Great. Dion.
Present.
Great, thank you. Johnny said he would be out tonight. Karen.
Present.
Great. Matthew. Not here other than myself. Nicole.
I'm here.
Thank you. Laura.
Present.
Guneev. Guneev, I see you, so I'm gonna mark you as yes. Rebecca, no. Ben, no Ben. No, Jay said he would not be here tonight, and then Nick.
Present. Hi.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen to share the agenda. And then we can hopefully officially adopt said agenda. Tonight we have 5 items. The first item is a discussion with our Ward 1 DDOT Community Liaison, Keisha Anderson. This is the first time we've invited Ms. Anderson to the committee. So what I thought, and she's kind of recently, the last couple of months, taken on this role. So I thought it would just be a good opportunity for us to introduce ourselves to her to introduce herself to us. I sent her a couple questions of some things that had come up the last couple months, or things the committee has talked about or that has been emailed to me to kind of kick it off. But feel free to ask any questions you might have. We'll probably just start with the ones that she had ahead of time. The next item is a proposal from the African American Civil War Museum to create a historic heritage trail, the George Washington Williams Historic Heritage Trail, connecting the museum on Vermont Avenue to the Howard University campus. And they're asking for a letter of support for that. So we'll talk about what that is. It's kind of a cool project. We'll discuss a draft resolution on the updated plans from DDOT on the 11th Street bike lane. And then we have a draft resolution asking the DC government to prioritize the removal of abandoned and non-compliant streeteries. The original COVID streetery program is coming to an official end towards the end of the fall. So this is asking the city to make sure that any of the non-compliant streeteries or abandoned streeteries are dealt with appropriately so that they don't become hazards, essentially. And then finally, the 5th item is a resolution to ensure equitable access to reserved disability parking for multifamily housing residents in the District of Columbia. We passed, prior to my term, we passed at least one resolution kind of on this topic. So this is further exploring that topic. Committee member Karen Gall drafted both items 4 and 5. So she will help lead that discussion for both of those items. And so that's it. So I would like to move to adopt the agenda.
Seconded.
Great. All those In favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Okay, just writing that down. Okay, great. So I see that Keisha Anderson is in the audience. So I'm just going to promote you to panelists so you can join the discussion. We'll just give her a second to join. Good evening, Keisha. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keisha Anderson. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for the District Department of Transportation for Wards 1 and 7. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, we're happy you're here. So could you, I guess maybe just to start it off, could you just kind of discuss, like, what does the community liaison specialist do, and maybe how the ANC or the committee could best work with you?
Our community, our CED division, which is a community engagement division, we are liaisons within 8 wards. Total right now, we currently have 4 liaisons when we should have 8. We are double on certain wards with the liaisons, and what we do is just help residents with certain issues or concerns, anything related to DDOT. Also, sharing awareness of any safety plans or any changes within our infrastructure for DDOT. We also handle public space, some parking, not all parking, but some parking. TSIs, we do explain and share information for traffic safety input, and also any projects that may be coming up within your ward that you have questions or concerns with. I will get you in contact with a engineer or a safety tech to help litigate or help everyone understand what is actually going on. So the best to reach me would be by email. If there is an issue, I do prefer that it does go in a 311. Reason being, the mayor would like for us to all put everything into 311. That helps us with, 1, revenue. It lets us know how district services are being used. And 2, it holds each agency, not just DDOT, but all agencies within the district government accountable for what they have to take care of. So that will be the first. Once you put your concern into 311, pictures are very, very important. If you can't get pictures, I know some people be on the go and don't get a chance to grab a picture or get a picture, but that is very helpful if you can upload it in 311. Once you submitted your request and you get a service request number, please send it to me by email so I can research it. Sometimes you may put one in and it doesn't take into the system, or it may have closed right away. We do close out service requests within 24 to 48 hours. Reason being, it's moved on to the next phase within our system. It is uploaded with notes if once it's closed, say they researched it or they're moved on to the next, or a work order has been placed for a certain concern and you're not sure if it's been entered, you can just reach out to me and I'll share that information with you on the other side of our system. I also help with explaining different dashboards. Now we have several dashboards that you can look for information for, especially on Pave DC, which is for our sidewalks, alleys, and roads. Lets you know exactly what we're doing in those areas. We do have a dashboard, which is our TSA dashboard, and I believe that's one of the questions on that I was asked earlier by the commissioner about a TSI on 8th Street. Is that correct?
On 8th, yes.
There is a dashboard where you can look up all of your TSIs that has been entered. On the dashboard, you'll see it by quarterly, pending, completed, of course, completed or completed TSIs, and then those TSIs for future consideration. If you don't see your TSI listed in the quarter prioritization, you can check to see if it's in pending. And if it's not in pending, then it will be in the future consideration. So I do help with ANCs and understanding the dashboards when they're trying to figure out a concern or wondering what's going on in a certain area. I also look up information and help those who may have parking issues. Say if we're doing construction, well, not us, but contractors are doing construction in certain areas, which there currently are with Pepco and Washington Gas. We're putting in new lines throughout the entire city. And also DC Water is putting in new lines as well for lead pipes. And I do know that parking can be a challenge when you see those parking signs. You can also just reach out to me with a parking permit so I can look them up in TOPS and let you know exactly what's going on. But the best way to reach me in all of that is just by email is the quickest way, so I can quickest respond. If I don't respond within the 24 to 48 hours, just send me a quick reminder so I can jump on it.
Okay, great. That's a helpful overview. Before we jump into the specific topics that I shared with her before the meeting, does anyone have any questions about? I know that was a lot of information. Okay, let's jump into the questions. So just for the group as a whole, the kind of 4 specific questions that I sent were, we got some resident comments, is the nice way to say it, I think, about a recent change to 9th Street Northwest near the 930 Club and like the Whole Foods. It was one-way south, I believe, previously, and they've changed it to be one-way north. And so, and Keisha, you can correct me if I got the direction wrong, but and some residents had some questions about that and kind of wanted to know the rationale for why it was changed and whether there was any study or something that we could point them to. So that was question 1. Question 2, so at the end of last year, I think there's been repeated requests, but most recently, there was a TSI submitted in December about turning 8th Street into a one-way street. This is the block in front of Cleveland Elementary School. And there's concerns from parents and teachers at the school about safety during pickup and drop off. So people were proposing that maybe if the street was a one way instead, that would kind of help with the flow of pickup and drop off. And so just wondering on the status of that. And I know Guneev in particular, but other people too, have asked me and might also be just wondering about like sidewalk repairs. Like sometimes you might put in a 311 request for a trip hazard or other issue on a sidewalk, and it kind of feels like it just goes into 311 and just is there and nothing's happened. So like maybe just some information on sidewalk repairs and how they get prioritized or how they could be resolved. And then finally, actually, number 4 was just how best to engage with DDOT and with Keisha, which I think she already answered that one. So we did 4 first. So yeah, I guess if Keisha, if you want to go to the 9th Street.
Sure.
Yep.
I could talk about both of them since
Okay.
we're just doing some reorganization. I will still haven't had a clear answer for those from the engineers, especially for your resolution. We're still waiting for to be an answer from the engineers so we can respond to that as soon as possible. We're trying to get that back to you by September 30th before October 1st, the start of the new fiscal year 2026. So once I hear back on those 2 answers, especially with the study of 9th Street and near the 930 Club, or why that was changed, once I get an answer from the engineer, I can give you a complete, precise answer for that one. The other one, we're just waiting for engineers to respond to your resolution to that TSI. And I believe it's in the not in the pending, but in future consideration. But I will check one more time before we hang up on this call.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Sidewalk repair, I do understand that it feel like it goes to 311 and go into oblivion and you never hear about it again.
right.
And I'm so sorry for that. But with sidewalk repair, please just send it to me. Just ping me as much as you can about any sidewalk repair. As long as you put it in 311, I can send it to the street and bridge and maintenance team, and they can look at it. And usually they're usually pretty quick at it because they have their tablets with them and they ride around throughout the entire city once, and they get pinged every time they would get something through 311. I will say this, we are short staffed in all areas. It's just not with community engagement, but we are short staffed in all divisions. And we're hoping to get the go in hiring again. So once that gets wrapped up and we get announcement out, hopefully we'll be fully staffed. I also want to say that we are having issues. Well, I wouldn't say issues, but concerns with some of our contractors that does our roads and asphalt and some of our sidewalks and concrete and things of that nature. Some of these contracting companies have been raided, unfortunately, and some workers are scared to come to work um, for that reason. So that's some of those services have slowed down just a bit. Hopefully that will change in the future, but we are dealing with that as well, and hope and pray that that does change. So we are dealing with some challenges here, and like I said, I hope in the future it does change.
Yeah, thank you for that, Guneev. I see you have a question.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely understand the with everything that's going on right now and the shortages. Unfortunately, this is this sidewalk that I'm specifically talking about. Um, the entire sidewalk, parts of it was paved over, but this portion, I think they told us that it's too raised to use that machine to flatten it out, and it's become a pretty drastic trip hazard. I've seen little kids and elderly trip over and almost face plant, and I've had to. It's literally like outside of my window, so I've seen this happen. And I originally put in the 311, I think like 2 3 years ago at this point, and I've done multiple since then, and so has my wife and neighbors as well, and it's just to see it get lost into the ether. But I'm glad to hear you say that we can email you and hopefully prioritize it. So
Yeah, just
maybe
send me the exact address to where you are. Don't worry about the 311 since it's already been entered so many times. I do have a question though. Was it cement that they used or the asphalt turf? This
so.
it's black. You can tell the difference between the two. One is black and one is cement.
Yeah,
I'm not
right now
sure.
it's cement, I believe. And then for the other portions down the block where there were some issues, I'm not sure they use some machinery to just flatten it out.
Okay.
This is clearly not my
Your expertise,
strength.
I understand. Just send me some pictures when you send that email, and
Sweet,
I'll
will
look
do.
into it with our street bridge and maintenance team.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think we kind of discussed at least the ones I sent before. Karen, did you want to ask about streeteries? I could ask about streeteries.
I did want to ask one question about, I'm so sorry. I do want to talk about the streeteries, but I do want to talk about a sidewalk bus stop issue. It's right there at 14th and U at the Reeves Center. Right, the bus stop that's in front of the former industrial bank post office area. It's a hole that someone, and I'm assuming someone from DDOT put this wooden plank in that hole in the bus stop to cover it up. However, it's a hazard, just like Ganev said. it's a low cost fix, but it's a huge liability that anyone could twist their ankle, get a wheel caught in it as they're entering on the bus. And I know that all of the bus stops are the responsibility of DDOT, and it's just amazing how it has not been taken care of. And since you did give us a little indication as to what's going on currently in regards to staffing about fixing those particular issues, but the exact address, I don't have it. I do have a few pictures already, but I couldn't really enumerate the address. But it is the only bus stop that is on the side of the Reeve Center on 14th Street. That's directly in front of the former industrial bank slash post office, right there at the corner of 14th and U Street. That was my I guess the 311 or whatever. But the streeteries, of course, if you want me to go, chair, I will happily try to get some idea about what's going on with the abandoned streeteries, specifically along the U Street corridor, the hazardous locations that we documented in the resolution that we have. We have 4 abandoned streeteries on U Street immediately that are considered safety hazard, particularly 1214 U Street, where a grill remains in a roadway area surrounded by the Jersey barriers. And that's one, a fire hazard that fire EMS should remove, or DDOT. And given that MPD and DPW support the immediate removal of these barriers, as well as that grill that's sitting in on a DDOT sidewalk, I was just wondering if DDOT can commit to removing at least the 4 structures that we've mentioned within 30 days, rather than waiting until November the 30th, which is the deadline that is set for the removal after this October 1st date. And and that's the first question. Since the October 1st deadline status is set for one free removal assistance deadline. They have, like you guys have for one free removal, there's an assistance deadline that the people can use. And once that has passed, what is DDOT's enforcement plan for businesses that didn't request the removal for assistance of their abandoned streeteries or unused streeteries, and that still have those abandoned structures? And and then, of course, in regards to the fire and safety protocol, what is DDOT's emergency removal protocol when it comes to abandoned streeteries that contain fire hazards like the grills or propane tanks, and that warrant, as far as I'm concerned, it warrants an expedited removal. And I just would want to see if we can get that done. I do know I've spoke directly with DPW, and obviously I spoke directly with MPD, that they're waiting only on you all to respond to this process. And is there any type of comprehensive assessment that is going to be done for all of the streeteries and the ANC 1B area specifically? Only because I'm on this committee, but of course I would like to see it anywhere that is needed, to identify other abandoned structures before November the 30th. And can you provide us with a timeline on how that work will be taken care of, and if there's any kind of cost recovery for businesses that have ignored the October 1st deadline? Will DDOT pursue any cost recovery for the removal of those particular streeteries, so that we don't, as taxpayers, we don't have to bear the cost of it? So if you want me to repeat any of my questions, I'm happy to repeat them. And I certainly didn't want to overwhelm you. And that's only for the streeteries, but there's another resolution that we have that I certainly want your input on as well. Thank you, Ms. Keisha. Did you capture everything?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a mouthful. Let's start with the first one, which is the bus stop. Just send it to me with the pictures. I know exactly what location that is, and I'll get someone over there to take care of that. Streeteries. So you said 12th and U Street. They still have a grill out there in public space. Is that business still in
It's
business?
okay. There's no one having ownership. That someone chained it to the tree box slash, it's like chained. It's a black grill. It's a nice
Mhm.
grill. And it's just, when things are abandoned, someone chained it. And we have a habit of people having um pop-up parties on certain things, such as they all of a sudden they'll decide to grill out of the blue, and it's MPD specifically. We have said that this is a hazard for the street, but because it's a grill that produces fire, we want to make sure that it's removed. And DDOT
Mhm.
has to sort of institute that along with fire and EMS. So we've been asking, DPW cannot just readily come and grab it because they need to have all the protocols met on that. But it's
Correct.
the actual grill.
If they're grilling in the middle in public space, they're supposed to have a permit from the DC licensing and permitting. So that's one. They shouldn't be doing it without a permit. Um, Second, if the businesses owners are not in operation and that streetery is still there, just let us know because they do. Everyone does have until October 1st to remove their streeteries, whether they're in business or not. Some streeteries have been extended only in certain areas and only in certain wards. Not every streetery did get approved going forward. And those who have been approved have to go with the aesthetics that DC government wants them to have as far as their layout of their streeteries, like no TVs, no overstructures, anything that will be of a hazard to residents patronizing the businesses. Like you said, yes, we do. They do have until October 1st to remove all of them. But if they're not in operation and they still have their street routes, please let your moker know. The moker will reach out to the streetery team, or you can reach out to me. Just copy me as well. But your moker should be reaching out to your streetery to our streetery team to have those things removed. They have full policies of what should be going next. As far as an assessment and going forward of those streeteries, I will have to ask the streetery team to answer those questions that you had about that. I'm not sure. All the directives that we were just giving is that they had until October 1st, and those who are going to be extended till November 30th. That's all that was given to us. Anything other than that, we have not been given, but I will find out for you and that for that information. And I believe we did receive that resolution as well, and it was given to that team to answer that resolution. So hopefully they will have that responded to as well by September 30th.
Yeah, I did actually reach out to the Moker, and we made phone calls. We did photos, everything in regards to that,
Mm-hmm.
and we it always bounces right back. Oh, DDOT is the people to talk to, and so and this is, of course, I'm reinforcing everything through the ANC to ensure that it's in writing, that it's very very clear that you have multiple entities that are interested and getting some work done. 1214 U Street, where the grill remains in the street box roadway. It's not actually in contained inside of a streetery, but adjacent to it is one of those Jersey barriers. But
Okay, I know
there
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
then you'll also notice in that same little tree box, they have some weighted cemented weights that's really nasty looking. That's right in there. I don't know whose ownership. There's nothing that indicates who's who is properly owning that grill. So
Mhm.
that's the reason why I'm reporting it to make sure that it's not there. But the And as if we're mentioning about hazards in regards to the pavement that the sidewalks, that entire sidewalk is a disaster.
On Ninth, yes,
Right
from
there.
9th Street on down. We're actually, the Mokers have been reaching out to us. We have been working with our director and other teams to see what the resolution to this. We did put down seating and sod, and unfortunately, it was trampled on and destroyed. Because once we do the streetscapes and build out the streetscapes, it's up to the business owners to maintain the streetscapes. Um, and it's also out of its warranty period. I think the warranty period is only 2 years. And now it's outside the warranty period. There's nothing that we could do on our hands to actually fix it because the businesses was to maintain it. And I know it's hard to maintain when that street is nightlife. Everyone's walking around, businesses thriving, people are walking everywhere. Then rain, weather doesn't help it because it does fill up with mud and walk. I've been through there before, going to all the different places, and mud is everywhere. And then the sidewalks are all broken up. And I do notice that some businesses put down big, large cement blocks to help with the mud, not only help with the mud, but just to walk around the sidewalk so you won't be stepping in it. I believe the Mochas are supposed to be doing a walkthrough soon with the chief of staff. Our director said once we hear something from the chief of staff and what the mayor's chief of staff, let me be clear and correct what I'm saying, which chief of staff it is. Once they do the walkthrough with the mayor's chief of staff, if the mayor chief of staff asks us to fix it, we will fix it. But right now our hands is tied as far as the warranty is concerned to fixing it going for right now. Once that walkthrough is through, I will follow the direction of what the mayor wants us to do.
Well, I'll contact the mayor's chief of staff myself personally. And which one is it, Lindsay or Stephen? Which chief?
Lindsay, yeah, they're supposed to do. They were supposed to do that
I'll
walkthrough
talk
like
to
2 weeks ago. If they could, if she says it's a go, then let us know. Well, she will let us know.
Well, I'll talk to Lindsay. I'll talk to Lindsay myself and make sure that she knows that it's a huge issue.
Yes.
So now that we have we're talking about the grill, you're gonna give us a timeline when that grill is going to be
No,
removed.
just send it to me, and I can send it to public space to do an inspection. Because
Mhm.
it shouldn't be tied to a tree box. Nothing, and I'm gonna. This is for everyone, and this is for to share with your residents. Nothing should be tied or being planted in any tree box. You are to maintain it, but you can't put anything in it. I know that's weird. You're like, well, if I maintain it, I should be able to plant flowers. Nope, you can't plant flowers. You are to just maintain the grass, and we maintain the trimming of the tree in that tree box. But yes, nothing should be attached to it. And since something is attached to it that is a hazard, please just send it to me as soon as you can, along with the picture if you have that. It's just
Okay, so I gave you two places that needs pictures and then of course an entire sidewalk from corner to corner that needs to be
yes,
maintained properly. Now, in regards to the gum removal from sidewalks that makes the sidewalks look extremely nasty at all times, where it looks like I know businesses cannot maintain it and they don't have the special equipment to heat remove the gum from off these sidewalks so that we can look decent at least in the areas that where you see all the black spots from the side the gum. I never knew people chewed that much gum in my entire life until you go to the corner of 14th and U and see the splatter. When what is DDOT going to do in regards to cleaning the sidewalks properly at 14th and U and beyond? And then also I know the Reeve Center is up for redevelopment, but that brick sidewalk that's right up there near the near the Reeve Center at the corner of 14th and U also is has a lot of tripping hazards that if you're on a if you're using a mobility scooter or whatever, you can take a flying leap off of one of those brick areas that is really very, very hazardous. So I'm just wondering, when is the next assessment for the sidewalks? When are you guys going to, outside of this one where Lindsay and the Mokers are going to walk the sidewalk, how soon are you guys going to actually do the work? So, and I don't want to belabor this because we have a huge thing to talk about after this. So that was it. Thank you. I appreciate you, Chair, for allowing me to ask my 50 questions.
Yeah, and
I want to finish our questions though.
Keisha, before you respond, I just want
Yes.
to say, Santiago will be the last questions, and then we'll wrap up with your portion. So just a preemptive thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Yep.
The Reeve Center, how close is those bricks are to the Reeve Center? Because that would be DGS. That wouldn't be DDOT to fix it.
Well, I would give you approximately from the Reeve Center before you, I would say, less, I mean, probably more than 10 feet, between 6 to 10 feet away from the Reeve Center. There is red bricks as you're riding down near the Reeve Center. There's one that gives you, like, you can hydroplane off of it because it's like 6 inches up in a 6-inch drop from a set of bricks. That is like, why is that like that? Just out of the blue if you're not paying attention. But that's, and are we going to discuss the parking with Keisha?
No.
No?
No, all the resolutions we're just gonna do on our own, and we'll send.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Just if you can, again with that, if you can send me pictures, since I want to see how close it is to the Reeve Center, because if not, it will have to go to DGS to be fixed and not DDOT. They will, since they own the building, they still own the building, so they will have to fix the red bricks. And then the other, it's one more, and then I believe he wants to move on to
Santiago, your question.
Yeah, super quick. So at the intersection of Vermont Avenue and V Street, and I'll send you an email with a picture of this. There's a road work ahead sign that was abandoned by some DDOT contractors that did the Florida Avenue Northwest reconstruction project a couple years ago, and the sign was someone like strapped it onto a DDOT light post, and it's been there forever. And there was when I represented there, I had a constituent who would hit me up about this all the time. I think it's still there. And when I talked to the last Ward 1 liaison, we tried to get the contractor to come out to come get it, but it's just like it's sitting there and it's kind of strapped, and like for a little while it was like falling over. It's kind of just like dumping, but DPW won't take it. I don't know what the solution is, but it's literally just like a metal sign. It's like one of the standard ones. I'll send it to you.
Yes, please send it to me, because it shouldn't be connected to, and like I said, don't hang anything from any poles or connect anything in any tree boxes. I know it's public space, but they shouldn't have never connected to a light post. They should have their own tripod or some type of hanging device to hang their own signs. But yes, please send it to me so we can have that removed, because it should not be on a light post at all. And they know this.
To clarify, to be clear, it is on its own standing thing, but then someone put it next to the light post and then strapped it with metal wire onto the light post. So it's both.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. It should not be there. I will send it to you. Let's get rid of it. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, send that to me so public space can look.
Thanks, Keisha, for being here tonight.
You're welcome. No worries. And if anybody has any other questions, I will pop my information into the chat. Please send me an email. Again, please try to send it to 311. If you don't know any of the categories, just reach out to me. I'll tell you what the categories is. We'll enter it real quick. Send me the request and we'll get it squared away. But thank you for inviting me tonight.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. So our next item is the George Washington Williams Historic Heritage Trail. I've drafted a letter, but before we get to the letter, I'll just show you what we have from the museum and kind of explaining what their proposal is. Let's see. Okay, this is the letter. I want to get to the other thing. Okay, cool. So this is the description of the Heritage Trail. The George W. Williams Historic Trail is a powerful walking experience that connects the African American Civil War Memorial Museum to Howard University through a series of double-sided street light pole banners. Each banner along the trail features prominent historical figures from the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement, honoring the sacrifices, leadership, and resilience that shaped the journey toward freedom and equality. Named in tribute to George Washington Williams, the trail invites passersby to engage with history in the very streets where it unfolded. Each banner includes a QR code that provides digital access to in-depth stories, archival images, and educational content, transforming the public space into an immersive historical exhibition. The trail offers a unique opportunity for residents, students, and visitors to reflect on the enduring legacy of African American heroes as they walk from the African American Civil War Memorial at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest to the campus of Howard University, an institution that has long stood as a beacon of Black excellence and progress. So that sounds cool. I don't have a map, but I'm going to try to pull up. This is not going to be very helpful, I see, but maybe a little bit. These are the blocks and the particular street lights that they're proposing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13, 14, 15, about 15 street lights.
Matthew, could you zoom in a little bit on the image?
Let's find out. Yes, it's blurry though. So about 15 street lights, Berry Place, 900 block of U Street, 2300 block Georgia, 6th Street, Berry Place, Vermont, Florida, Vermont, U Street, Vermont. So kind of like linking, as I said, the museum to the campus. So it sounds pretty cool. I don't know if they didn't share any of the materials or exhibits with us, but one could assume that they will be historical and interesting. So what they've asked of us is just a letter of support with their application with DDOT. So it's pretty simple. I'll just read it quickly and then we can, if anyone has any questions, we can do that. So on September 10th, the TPPS committee discussed the proposal about the trail, this first paragraph. And I'm presuming, hopefully, that it is the opinion of the committee that the proposal, which seeks to add banners to streetlight poles between the museum and the campus, each with unique QR codes providing access to historical information and educational content, will help enliven the public realm and enhance the pedestrian experience within ANC 1B. And then, just what the vote was, and that we're asking ANC 1B, the full committee, or the full commission, to consider this letter on October 9th, which is the next commission meeting. So pretty simple, but a pretty cool sounding project that I personally would be happy to support. Karen?
Yes, sir. There's one request. I guess it could be in the ANC letter. Because you had to do that deep dive for all the addresses, I would suggest that all the addresses be included in the letter to the location of the trail. So,
Okay.
and then if you have any rendering, if you have a rendering of that, what it's going to look like, they didn't provide that to you.
No.
No.
I don't.
Because it could look, you want to make sure that it's going to be aesthetically pleasing. I mean, I know it will be. But
I do have
especially
an example of a
historic.
banner I can pull
Okay.
up. I just found. So let me see if that will load. But the QR codes and what that content looks
Yeah,
like.
is it going to be, because see, the thing is with a QR code, I mean, safety wise, I'm always curious about what people are scanning. That's just from my public safety hat. But
Yeah.
I'm also if one, it has to be eye level. People are going to be cognizant of their safety as they're trying to scan the code to look at the materials. I would like to see how it's going to look for the public to utilize And if it's going to be something that's going to be accessible to everyone in the public who's interested in utilizing the trail. I know it sounds a little bit more, we want to support it, but make sure that it involves the entire community being able to utilize it. I think it's a wonderful idea, but I just want to make sure that they have spelled it all out for everyone to enjoy it. And are they is there any particular historical sites? Are they going to try to get every one of the historical sites in on that trail?
So, all I know is the proposal is just to put banners on the streetlight poles. So it's kind of like not necessarily certain things might have happened near some of those blocks, but I think it will be more like here is a particular person that maybe lived in the neighborhood or a particular thing that happened nearby. And then like the banner would be similar to this, where you would see these on the streetlights, and the streetlights would kind of like you would follow the streetlights, like the path of the streetlights from the museum
Oh, okay.
to the
Okay, I get you.
university, or vice versa. You could start at either end. And then there would be something like this on each banner. And then also, and so that's what anyone could enjoy just walking around. But then also, as an enhancement, would be the QR code that would have additional information.
Mm-hmm.
So the banners would just be like, sharing some of the history and beautifying the street and adding like an interesting thing in the neighborhood, and exposing more history, just even to someone who isn't doing the trail, right? Just someone who happens to be walking on that block and maybe they're interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're really interested in it and want to do the trail, then you could, follow
Like you would do at a
along.
museum.
Yep, and then scan the code. So I think it provides multiple experiences.
Right. Now, with my secondary question would be they're going to do the full maintenance of it. We're just making sure that they have the support that it
Right.
can go up in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there's also another opportunity that ANC 1B is supporting in regards to banners for the historic U Street area and beyond as well. Are is this project going to be something that's going to be collaborative, or is it just a project that's a standalone only for the African American War Museum?
Yeah. So my understanding is that for the trail, they would kind of be in charge of the look and feel of the banners, and then of the content, the historical content. Um, that's kind of under their directive, but they have reached out to Miguel and to your point about the like kind of U Street neighborhood banners. They're in talks to like deconflict which polls like the U Street neighborhood banners are requesting versus which ones the trails are requesting. So there shouldn't be an issue of like, we need this for our trail or we need this for the neighborhood. Like they would kind of like, in the application for DDOT, they've tried to work to not request the same polls.
Okay. 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 Oh, thank you. I just want
Yep.
those are my questions. Of course, I'm still thinking of some others, and I'm really interested in how it's going to look. Since it's supposed to beautify, I was assuming that we will at least have some renderings to give us an idea of the
Uh,
concept.
yeah, I just have that one image I already showed.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
thank you very much.
Yep. Any other questions? If not, I would like to move to support the letter with the friendly amendment from Karen to just add the specific locations of the polls.
And I second.
I'm going to give the second to Karen. So all those in favor, please.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Great. So this letter, I will make that edit to add the locations, and then we will send that to ANC, the full ANC, and we will vote on that in October. Thanks, everyone. Next up is the draft resolution on the 11th Street bike lane. So I'll pull that up. But Santiago, you helped draft that. So I don't know if you want to kick off the discussion.
I'm happy to kick it off. If you want to get it up, Matthew, if you could put it on the screen so I can kind of walk through. Context, so the ANC already had 2 other resolutions on this project specifically. One from January 2022. Actually, no, sorry, one from December 2022 and one in October 2024. And so the resolution, it's sort of like we do a whereas where we talk about, oh, DC, this is the plan. This was a part of the plan. We mentioned these other 2 resolutions that we passed and what we did. Those resolutions include like a lot of specifics. We're not like removing the fact that we think those are relevant, but we're just like kind of restating that. Noting some context from the other ones about high level of usage, noting the new design that DDOT has proposed, and that like the changes, they're not doing a protected bike lane on Vermont Avenue anymore. They're doing, a different segment between Florida Avenue and S Street. And then, be it resolved that we support the current design and that we encourage the completion of the project at the latest by summer 2026. And asking the DDOT take advantage of increased length of paving season, because paving season is now longer because there's climate change, so there's more warmth generally, so you can pave earlier and into later in the fall. And then a further resolved, reiterating these are specific requests that we included in our previous resolution. Some of them I took out because they weren't as relevant because the design changed. But so asking for designated ADA parking spots on that segment of 11th Street using a similar design as employed on the 400 block of K Street. This was one that we also included in our original resolution, asking for ADA accessible ramps along with those. We're asking that they remove the streetcar tracks that are underneath there, because if you're familiar, you know how bumpy it is. One of the reasons 11th Street is so bumpy is because the streetcar tracks warped the asphalt and they're still stuck under there. Asking if they can evaluate installing dedicated commercial loading and unloading zones on the 1900 and 2000 blocks. There are businesses on both of those blocks, although the 1900 block is more on the north end, so to accommodate deliveries. Right now, there's a lot of those are like double parking, so just to make it easier for them. Another one, which is asking the DDOT widen the northbound bike lane between Florida Avenue and Clifton Streets. This is basically like from like the hill, like from like the significant part of the climb, to allow for a passing lane, given the amount of e-bikes. That part is going to be protected. So that's north of the segment that they've revised. And that was another thing we asked for before. I'm asking that DDOT install bus islands along the 11th Street to allow boarding for the D44 bus route. Because people have reported that the bus stops can be blocked by illegal vehicles. Also, it's easier for then cyclists to keep going and the bus to stop more easily, to have to pull over, it just stops. And then asking that they install speed bumps and raised crosswalks in that sort of like narrower segment, especially because that is no longer protected. And then an additional further resolved about asking that they can monitor crashes and injuries in that segment, because it is going to be unprotected versus like the other parts. And so that's the pretty gist of it. This is, to be honest, I did not change like much, or I don't think I really changed anything for the most part from the other one. Does anyone have any questions?
One thing I thought of is, I don't know if it's necessary given the design, but on Vermont, so we asked for the bus islands on 11th Street. I know there's at least one bus stop at like Florida and Vermont NU northbound. Like, should we ask for bus islands on Vermont as well?
I think it's We can. They're doing some sort of reconfiguration of the stops there. That I don't really. That was one. They said that before they changed the design too. They said that WMATA is doing a reconfiguration of the stops, and so they're not. That was something that was slowing down the design anyway. But I
Okay.
think we could ask for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I mean, they
Sorry, go
could.
ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just agreeing with you. It's like we could ask, and if they say it's not necessary or not feasible, I mean that's just something they have to respond to. So
Yeah. I did see someone ask in the Q&A, Melanie said, can you detail what exactly the bike lane on 11th Street would look like between Florida and S Street? They had said they wanted to possibly make the blocks one way coming from U Street. I'll send a link in the Q&A, Melanie, for you to see the new proposed design. But it is a painted bike lane in between. So two lanes of parking, a one way. So the road would be one way from Florida, between Florida and S Street. I don't know what way, or if there would be sort of like, there's been some discussion of having it be one way up to U Street from one way, from one direction, and then one way from the other, so it meets and people don't go straight up, but they haven't really specified that.
I'm trying to pull up what they most recently shared, which is what we talked about in July. Is that right? But I've clicked on something. I don't know if that worked. Oh, it downloaded something. Okay, hold please. But yes, I think the proposal is to be, okay, I got it.
Matthew, could you send that to everybody? Because I can't. Also, the link as well. I know you're about to show it, but just so folks can have that.
Yeah, I'll do that after I share. So from so here's the full breadth of the 11th Street bike lane was from L Street to Monroe in Columbia Heights, and kind of the section that has changed the most because the southern and northern ends are still going to be protected bike lanes. The section that now is no longer going to have protection would be from S Street to Florida, and also Vermont Avenue won't have bike lanes. I mean, protected bike lanes, but it will have buffered bike lanes from 11th to Florida. And from on 11th, from S to Florida, it will be what it says in here is it's southbound from Florida to S. But so there would be a sharrow with the bike lane going, or with the regular road going south, and then a contraflow, or this here it says bike lane. We'll see a cross section in a second. But then also a contraflow bike lane going north. So that would be a painted lane going north. And then the car travel lane would be going south with a painted bike lane. This is kind of a condition that happens on like 17th Street and some other places around town that works pretty well. It's not as good as the protected facility, but the one way and then the contraflow is still a better condition than what it is now. So from Vermont to Florida, you can see here the cross section. So travel lane for the car going south, with a bike lane going south, parking lane on each side, but then that contraflow bike lane, so cyclists can still go north, even though the vehicle travel lane, the car travel lane, is going south. So that's how that would look on the non-protected portion of 11th Street. And I will send this to everyone. Already downloaded it. That's crazy.
Yeah, if you people go on the link that when you circulate it, you go down into and it'll say something concept selection July, I think it says.
Yeah.
And then if you click that one, it'll download the same PDF that Matthew showed. There's other designs in there because for other parts of the segment that aren't the one we're discussing because they're outside of this ANC.
Okay, great. I just sent that. So yeah, that's the change. And then on vote on Vermont. I guess I could show that cross section real quick. Share, please. Okay, and then Vermont would be, it's kind of like parking, bike lane south. And when people say buffered bike lane, instead of like that kind of thinner stripe that is on a standard like painted bike lane, it is a wider, it's like that regular stripe, but then you get like some cross hatching and then another stripe. So there's like more room in the painted bike lane, then travel lane south, and then a similar buffered lane, kind of buffered space by the median. That was kind of included, I think, because people do, especially because people do so much gardening on the median on Vermont, adding that kind of painted buffered space around the median was kind of an idea to try to help if people are visiting the median to take care of any plants or water or anything like that, plant new plants, that would give them some extra space for that. And then it's the same condition on the northbound side, buffer, travel lane, buffer, bike parking. Cool. Any questions about the resolution? I know there has not been a notice of intent yet on this project. And sometimes we wait for a notice of intent to weigh in again, since we've weighed in several times before. But since this project has kind of changed dramatically, maybe, and also because this project has been going on for a long time, we kind of wanted to get another resolution in before the notice of intent to share the opinions of the ANC and the committee, and also to like kind of reiterate that we want it built, and we don't, we kind of like want the project to be moved forward and not kind of like persist in this limbo state that we've had for like 5 years. It's kind of like one of the rationales for sending another one right now.
Not hearing any other questions, I'd like to move that the committee recommend that the full ANC adopt a resolution as presented.
Seconded.
Was that you, Nicole?
No,
Who
that was
seconded?
me.
Zoe.
No,
Okay.
Zoe.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. Okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the resolution as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Motion carries. I will send the resolution as presented to the ANC, and we will hopefully vote on that in October. Great. So the next item is Karen's item, the draft resolution on asking the DC government to prioritize removal of abandoned / non-compliant streeteries. Karen kind of previewed this when we were having our discussion with Keisha, but I can share my screen. Karen, is there anything you'd like to say to kick us off?
I think that I preambled it really well for everyone. The basic dialogue that I want you all to know, it's really important that for public safety reasons that the streeteries that are abandoned, one, they are a road hazard to anyone who's using the sidewalks, that is because they're not maintained, and people have been taking those Jersey walls and turning them any way that they would like. And it's really not conducive to the navigation of the sidewalks, going up using the street. And then also for public safety reasons, what's happening is they tend to be places where a lot of illegal activity happens during the night, when people we're having nightlife issues for public safety reasons from a nightlife perspective. We have people congregating in those areas, doing a lot of activities that MPD is extremely unhappy with, and then also our nightlife officials are very unhappy with it as well, and it becomes a dumping zone for trash and a lot of debris. And the previous owners, of course, have no responsibility for it because they don't maintain it. And as we were discussing with Miss Keisha, there is abandoned property that could also be considered fire hazards. And although we have it right up on this October 1st deadline where everyone is supposed to weigh in whether or not they want to participate in a program to have it removed for free, if they have not notified DDOT by October the 1st, it could just still sit there if it's not on the list of things that needs to be taken care of. And as you all noticed during my line of questioning to DDOT, I wanted to have a timeline for the for the streeteries to be removed, as well as an immediate timeline for the things that are complete hazards, like the grill and other items that could potentially be a tripping hazard, or used for other things that may be nefarious during certain incidents that we have along our U Street area. So we just want to keep the public safe. We want to keep the area looking nice so that everyone can enjoy the businesses that are there. They can see what's going on with the businesses. The businesses, if they want to use an aesthetically pleasing streetery, they can have an opportunity to comply without the other ones encumbering their space. So, outside of what I said for today's committee, everything that's explained inside of the resolution, I think it really hits home on the need for the removal of those particular streeteries. There was a question presented by Jay. He said that he was concerned, and I'm also noting that the one that Ben's Chili Bowl is using, because they're doing some renovations, and they moved their items from Ben's Chili Bowl to one of the locations that I have on the list, and for the life of me, I can't remember which number it is. But that would be the only exception that I would change as far as the committee is concerned.
Yeah, so let's jump into the resolution. So I this afternoon and getting ready for the meeting, I've added a couple comments and we can kind of just discuss my rationale for adding them. But so Karen has removal of abandoned, vacant, and unused temporary streeteries in ANC 1B. This is the resolution title. She put, or you put, Karen, like kind of a summary up top. I'm recommending removal of that, not because the content is bad, but just typically in our resolutions we don't write them that way. So just for consistency, I was just going to jump directly into the whereas clauses. We can talk about that. Kind of based off of what the conversation that Jay brought up. I can zoom in. The conversation that Jay brought up at the last meeting, and then kind of what you just talked about, is I think my preference would be to just call out especially the 1200 block of U Street instead of calling out specific properties. And my rationale behind that is that we have the issue that you just brought up with Ben's Chili Bowl during the renovation, moving from one place to another and maybe using like a different streetery. And then just because maybe we're not 100% sure even on, like, it's a little unclear sometimes to tell which streetery belongs to which address or which business. So I think if we just highlight the block as having a lot of issues, it's kind of just a little neater without having to worry about, did I get that address right? We could even keep in some of the list of maybe like examples of like problems you saw on the field assessment. So like we could still list the like Jersey barriers askew or vacant, like the grill. I know the grill is a big issue. So maybe we could still list some of those examples, but not do the addresses, since the addresses is a little murkier, and just say 1200 block of U Street. These are things we noticed, would be maybe my recommendation. This I just changed.
I'm not opposed to that change. I was considering that, but the reason why I specified the locations is because, you know, we did actually do the walk,
Right.
and those were the ones that we had as the outliers. But I certainly agree, as I was mentioning to Keisha, I think that we need to really look at all of the areas within 1B to see if they also fall under this
Right.
particular language. So the 1200 block of U Street is definitely a idea, and I did request that if any of the committee members knew of any additions that could go into that. I don't know if you have come up with anything.
I don't have any other ones in mind. I do 1200 U Street. I know, I think it's going to be removed anyway, but I know like the streetery, I forget the restaurant, but like the wine bar at like 11th and U, like that streetery would not be compliant, but hopefully they're removing it. There's a lot hanging around.
But why don't we say U Street? That way it would but put the 100 block as opposed to the 1100 block and 1200 block of U Street. That way we can sort of capture the block radius so that they know that we are looking at those particular areas. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's good. It kind of like calls out a problem spot, and then it's on, because it really, I mean, we should advocate for things we want to be, and there's times when we should be specific. But if we call out the block and we're advocating for that block, then it's on the agencies to follow through. So yeah, I
Yes,
think,
and if you do that, I'm definitely the letter that I'm going to draft. I appreciate you notating in the preamble. I always have to sort of preface things when I send out my information, but you know, I want everything to work for the ANC 1B area according to your the way you guys normally do things. So feel free to take that off, and I'm okay with that personally. It's just as long as all the points that we need.
yeah.
Now, are the resolve clause, does the resolve clause meet the standards that you all use for ANC 1B?
Yeah, we can get to those. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that these four whereas clauses, I think you captured the point really well with this first one, like that I just lightly edited, but like the reason we're wanting these removed in like an expedited manner, and not to just say, well, new streeteries can't be built unless they're compliant, but actually following through with removing the old ones, are because they obstruct sidewalks, obstruct the curbs, travel lanes, impede access for persons with disabilities, block emergency vehicle access, create fire hazards, and in many cases harbor trash, pest, rodents, and unsafe debris. I think that sums it up quite nicely.
Mhm.
And then these other ones just kind of reiterate the point. And I don't think we need to do that because we already said it.
Okay, if it's redundant, I'm okay with that. I do want to emphasize if I mention MPD, if you could leave that one there. The
Um,
aesthetics, um,
which one is MPD? Oh, yes, this one right here. Yeah,
yes,
the
leave that,
coordination with
please.
and support from MPD and DPW. Yeah, I think it's good to keep that one too, because
Yes,
you've coordinated with them, and they would also like to see them removed, right? So that kind of
yes.
helps the point.
And you can add in public safety or in other public safety organizations. You can put that in there if just to sort of overemphasize it is a true public safety issue. And I did speak directly with Mokers and obviously I'm going to do the actual mayor's chief of staff, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Um,
Okay. So yeah, I think that one's good to have in. These ones, we said about impeding pedestrian traffic and people with disabilities, abandoned structures. So I think those we could take out just so we get to the resolve clauses faster.
And just for future reference, having that type of information in there, does it take I mean, if you're omitting it, is it the reason for it is because of for brevity, or is it because you just think that it's unnecessary to re-emphasize it?
Yeah, I think it's more, I mean, a little bit brevity, but I think also it's like we said it in one clause, and I don't think we need necessarily to re-emphasize it because we have our main point in that one whereas clause. So
Okay. Now, does the other one that you are keeping, does it talk about the imposing of the fire risk and safety?
yes.
It does.
It says you said create fire hazards.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
As long as you look at it, and because obviously we lean on the ANC to make the final decision, and if it works for your commission, of course, I'm okay with it, just as long as the work is done.
Yep, understood. So then in the resolve clauses, a kind of we don't typically do the sections, so I'm just recommending removal of those. And then here, I wanted to make this consistent with like 1200 block. So if we're gonna not list the addresses, we would just say like 1211 blocks of U Street, right? Just to be consistent. And so this one's good, right? Because I think it's we're asking for the removal of the abandoned / hazardous streeteries on those blocks. And then DDOT shall conduct an immediate assessment of the remaining streeteries within ANC 1B boundaries. I think that's great because hopefully that's what they're doing anyway, but like we want to be sure that they're doing that, and we're showing that it's important to the commission. So I think that's great. Here, yeah, prioritizing removal based off of criteria. It's basically for different like safety reasons, like the fire hazard, vacant properties, safety complaints, just kind of like trying to get them to focus on those areas. Asking them to make sure DDOT coordinates with the other agencies and document it. I'm recommending removing section 4 with the timeline.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Why
so
won't you do that? Because that's the main problem that we're having. I'm so sorry, Matt. I mean, Matt.
It's okay, but like realistically, we can't even get DDOT to read a letter within 14 days.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I understand your point a little bit, Karen, but that we should hold the agencies to account, and like they should be responsive, but I just know that they're not going to provide us a removal schedule within 14 days.
So how and the problem that we're having in just across the city is getting oversight done for the agencies who are responsible for taking care of the segments, and specifically in the commissions, the way they're set out. We want to make sure that everybody is doing their job responsibly, and the only way that you can do it is having a tracking timeline. And that's the reason why I suggested this, because otherwise the accountability goes out the door.
Yeah, I'm going to respond to that, and then I see Zoe, you have your hand up, so I would like you to contribute. But I think we should hold them accountable. My kind of like adjustment maybe is be it resolved that ANC 1B requests the prioritization of the removal of streeteries deemed hazardous by the end of the calendar year. 2025. I just it's like honestly, it feels more realistic to me. I know that's frustrating to hear, Karen. It's like, and I be making excuses for DDOT? Probably not, but um Zoe.
Sorry to take us back, but could you go back up a little bit?
Yeah.
So in the number one, like if we're removing the specific instances, which I agree we should do, um, are we just we're no longer saying that there are specifically identified abandoned temporary streeteries? So would we just be saying like instead it's more like DDOT should identify any abandoned ones and then remove them?
DDOT shall immediately commence removal of identified, could it be like just of
And that's sort of another question I have of like,
and
Karen, this is just like a visual assessment that you know that these are abandoned, or like have you like confirmed that with
They're
proprietary?
they're actually like they're in front of buildings that have been like leases there. The lease is up. They're actually abandoned. Um, those that I've identified as abandoned are actually abandoned ones. Some of them that you can't really determine which address they belong to. You know, I just sort of gave that vicinity address that I mentioned, the specifics. Is that clear? I'm only trying to make sure because we have a lot of different properties on U Street that has it has signage in the windows that says for lease.
Uh-huh.
And in front of it is a streetery that is not maintained and it becomes a garbage pit.
right. Um, yeah, it kind of raises a separate question that bothers me that I don't think we have time for to adequately talk about or include in the resolution. But like if a restaurant goes out of business and then that owner does not clean up the streetery, then like of course I guess DPW and DDOT would eventually have to step in, but it kind of frustrates me that like the building owner doesn't have to do anything. If there's stuff in front of the building owner's like property and they're the business that they were leasing to goes out of business, like why shouldn't the building owner be accountable for what's in front of their building?
Right. And that's where I think I presented that to Ms. Keisha in regards to is there any cost that's associated with making sure that there's someone responsible so that the taxpayers aren't responsible for taking care of that particular issue. But I don't want to negate what Zoe had asked in
Yeah.
regards to her question. I'm hoping that I answered her question. Zoe, I hope I answered your question.
Like the potential of getting more comfortable with them. I could
I
just say,
apologize. I didn't hear you. Broke up on me.
oh, sorry. I just, with the potential of getting the address wrong, I'm just more comfortable with saying abandoned temporary streeteries. So I think that's a good change.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's jump back down. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the timeline section?
Just a question. I may have missed it. Is there something in there that like in case there's just there happens to be some kind of mistake where they identify one as abandoned, but it's not? Is there like a notifying of the business owner that they've been designated as abandoned and then giving them a chance to like appeal that option?
Well, all of the streeteries have to be kind of removed unless someone has applied for the new like standards and meets the new standards. So that's kind of like an active process. So DDOT would have them registered through that. So I guess basically if you aren't registered through that and haven't paid the fee and there's no record of you being on like the new streetery list, then you have to remove the old one. And then eventually if you don't, I guess it would just be kind of declared abandoned.
Is this resolution asking for them to be removed before that deadline that is already in the regulation?
The only one that the only request for that, Zoe, is the one that has like the grill area and those that are really truly like obstructions that are like immediate safety hazards. The grill is the first one that we want to hopefully can see it done within 30 days from this resolution. Actually wanted it done before the resolution was passed, but is that clear?
I think there's kind of two competing things. Like one, if the grill's actually chained to the tree, right? Or it's like in the tree box, definitely. Then like that, I know you said that there's been back and forth with like DPW and like who should remove it, but like hopefully Keisha can just escalate that sooner. And that's kind of like outside of the resolution process. But then the resolution is kind of more global on like, well, we have a problem like across the whole ANC with these. So I'm kind of like thinking about it holistically. Like we want to kind of have the resolution be applicable to all of the places where there's issues,
That's correct.
which is
That's
why,
correct.
which is kind of why I want to either take out the timeline or just like adjust it so it's a little more realistic. So we can be mad about them not meeting like the realistic timeline.
Well, I can assure you that DPW is already in gear to help as soon as this goes down and we get DDOT's A-OK on it. But if you make the adjustment, I really I thought that the timeline sort of gives Keisha something to let her know that this is really, really important to us. However, I'm going to go with the consensus of the committee and the commission on how that should be adjusted.
Okay. Any committee thoughts on the timeline before we move on from anyone else?
I can see both sides. I think while you were talking, you mentioned instead of actually giving that time frame that we would say by the close of 2025, is that what you suggested?
Yeah, so and my thinking with that, just to be explicit, is so if we have the deadline of October 1st for them to request help, and then we have the deadline of November 30th that the city's set and kind of has like expectations around, then we're asking for just 30 days beyond that. Like we'll think things like some things might slip, but we don't want them to slip too much further past the deadline that they've already set. So this is setting like an additional deadline after their deadline that they've messaged out to people. And that's kind of like it's like, okay, we know you said this and we know that some might slip, but we don't want them to slip forever. And it's like still an issue that we deem important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that seems more fair to me.
Okay, cool. So
I'm happy that we're giving them a deadline. So
okay, so we'll do by calendar year. And Karen, I know where the frustration is coming. Like you want them to take action, and you've been trying to get some stuff done, and it hasn't. So I hear what you're saying. We also asked about monthly reports about locations of removed street areas, dates of removal, status of remaining non-compliant structures, costs incurred, if any. I guess we could include that. I didn't know if the cost was necessary to include, but I'm kind of either way, it's fine. And then the whole section on cost recovery, I kind of don't know if it's necessary to include that. I know it kind of goes along with what I was saying about like, well, why aren't the property owners responsible for like the bad behavior of their tenants? If the tenants didn't do it, like why does it fall into the city? So I guess we could include it. I don't know. Do people feel one way or the other about the cost recovery?
I think it's necessary because you brought it up without probably even noticing that it was right down there. But two, I think it's really important that it shows that the ANC cares about how the monies is spent from the taxpayers to, for negligence. I don't think we should be responsible for the negligence of others if if the city can collect that monies. And I do think that we need to emphasize because how our economic dollars, our economic viability for the community happens when it comes to businesses, because we often have businesses put the weight of former businesses or intentionally put the weight and responsibility in this area on the ANC. So I think we should highlight that. There's nothing wrong with it personally.
Any thoughts on that from anyone else? Okay, we can leave it in. And then a clear abandonment criteria. I think that was a good one, Karen. I think there should be like an obvious, like especially if we're going to be asking the city to do these things, I think it should be clear for residents and business owners and property owners, like you have to maintain it. If you don't maintain it, or the restaurant closes and they don't clean it up after X amount of time, it's considered abandoned and the city's going to take action. I think that having that be clear makes sense and would be the most fair thing. So leave that. I am going to move kind of a global edit that I'll make later is like removing the sections and changing them to just be the resolved clauses. This last one, the be it further resolved, is like, I'm just going to remove it because emergency legislation, that's not really a phrase with the ANC. So I'm just going to remove that last one. And then I know you did list the names of various people to send it to. So I'm just making an edit here that like we'll send it to the council, mayor's office, MPD, DPW director, like relevant people, and that'll change how it's listed. When they make the official resolution.
Yeah. I wear too many hats, so I keep forgetting how it works, and I apologize.
Oh
But
no,
I'm
it's no
trying to make
problem.
sure that I get, that we're as accurate as possible for you, for the ANC. But thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted you to understand and everyone to understand like what my comments on it and edits kind of meant. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. How does everyone feel about that? Good?
If everybody's good, I would like to make the motion that we move to adopt this resolution to have it be supported by the full ANC.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I think Santiago Bicha. Great. So all those in favor of the edited resolution, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Motion carries. How many? There's 9 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, great. 10. Abstention. Okay, so we can move on to our final resolution of the night, which is also the beautiful work of Karen Gall. Resolution to ensure equitable access to reserved disability parking for multifamily housing residents in the District of Columbia. I'm gonna pull that up. Gotta scroll back to that in the packet. Okay. Okay, Karen, do you want to briefly give a overview on this? I know that in 2023, a resolution on the same topic was passed.
Okay. Well, the reason why the problem that we have is m- we have different ways that constituents are receiving their parking. Like I have a resident who lives in a house on Euclid Street. She has MS and she can get a reserved parking space right outside of her front door. Then I have another resident, his name is Mr. Williams. He lives in an apartment building next door to her, and he has the same exact disability that she has, but however, and he pays the same exact permit fees, but he's denied the right to even apply for a reserved parking space. And the problem that we have is with availability of those parking. 1 in 20 parking spaces can be provided for someone who has a disability. And isn't about availability, it's about eligibility. Mr. Williams, he can't even submit an application because he lives in an apartment. Over 60% of the DC residents live in multifamily housing, and ANC 1B, that number is even higher because it's a high density of multifamily housing in ANC 1B, and the residents who pay the same fees but get inferior services. And on a daily, you have to wait either 2 hours to get a parking space or try to navigate 3 or 4 blocks away from your apartment building in order to get a parking space. And this, of course, makes you at risk for falls and injuries, navigating the uneven sidewalks that we've mentioned earlier, and any of the curbs. And then people have to cancel medical appointments because they can't face the parking struggle. And if you're homebound, they would rather risk, just not risk finding a parking space when they return, because you can't even really, you're pretty much prisoners in your own home because you cannot really move around because of the limited abilities to have your parking spaces near your home. So, what the resolution is requesting is that we eliminate the housing discrimination that's based on eligibility, whether you live in an apartment versus a actual single family home. You need to base the eligibility based on the medical need, not the housing type. We need to increase the designated spaces from 1 space per every 20 residential units. The fee equity, there needs to be a refund given to the people who've been paying for their parking spaces and not being able to utilize the services that they should have. And I think that we need to increase. I know you guys were talking about the timeline earlier. I do believe in timelines. And of course, I think we need 180 days to implement this fully. And I do believe that it's an emergency. But am open to hearing what the committee has to say, because I think we really need to designate these particular spaces right away, because everyone needs to have some type of fair rights in the city, especially if they're paying the money for it. And I don't think that during the winter months, that especially as the winter months are approaching, that people who have disabilities should be overly navigating these icy sidewalks that will make the distance to park even more dangerous. And I don't think that we should try to see if we can wait for the perfect solution while the residents are suffering. And I believe that we really need to get this taken care of ASAP. So that's my pitch for this resolution. It's a long time coming, and I don't know too many places that aren't multifamily. Even if it's a single family home, now 9 times out of 10 they have like 3 condos in that particular lot space. So I just want people to know what we're looking at. So thank you. Look at you. Did you have any questions?
I was trying to unmute.
Did you
Okay.
pull apart the resolution?
I have the resolution pulled up.
Okay.
Can everyone see my screen?
I can now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is a resolution. So the beginning, similar, just like taking out the intro, because our some typically start with intros. They just like jump right into the whereas clauses. I also kind of wanted to get rid of the first three. The first one,
The one
it's
where
like,
I'm notating the Disability Act.
no, the very first one is listing just like the neighborhoods that the ANC represents. I don't think it's necessary. And then it's like it can be kind of like, because on my side of the neighborhood, people kind of think they live in Adams Morgan, but the rest of the ANC doesn't think about Adams Morgan. And then there's LaJoy Park, and there, it's just all these different things. So like
Okay,
just like
I
removing
understand.
that because um and then just talking about the other ANCs that recognize it as an issue. Well, I think that's probably true. I just thought we could jump, like this one I think is a stronger start. We could potentially leave in where you discuss ADA and FHA and reasonable accommodations. Like that could be the intro. But I kind of like this as a strong start where you jump right into the issue with the municipal regulations, and it's like that people in multifamily aren't allowed to apply for this. So we want to make it so they can. Santiago, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to call something out because so in the resolution that we passed that I think I wrote in 2023, I think we should call out the actual name of the program, which is the Residential Disability Permit Parking Program, so RDPP. And so I agree with Karen, and I agree with the like sort of the reasoning for the resolution too, but I think we just like at the start like say that. I also don't, this is more of like a confusing thing just to clarify. If you Most people who live in multifamily buildings normally, I guess it maybe sometimes depends on the designation at the time, are they eligible for RPP or am I
Yes,
okay?
yes,
Okay.
definitely. I can tell you because I pay for it myself, and
Um,
yes, we're eligible.
I think maybe it's some of the newer buildings where they block off your thing so you can't get it.
There's certain streets, like sometimes if you live on a major corridor, your street won't be eligible for it. The side street might be, but like if the frontage of the building is on, I don't know, 16th Street or something, where a block where there isn't RPP parking, then you wouldn't be eligible for it, even if there's like RPP parking in the neighborhood. And then I think sometimes you're right, there's like newer buildings that like through like a PUD or certain zoning procedures, they would like say people aren't eligible for it. But like, if you're a multifamily building on a RPP block, then yeah, like Karen, you would be. I lived in a building like that before, and we were eligible for RPP.
Yeah, you're right, and I do know that the developer would be the person who be as you said, under a PUD, that they would try to negotiate a way in which they would say, well, if we're going to put up this big building, we will we won't offer RPP parking to our residents, which I think is a disservice, but in any case, I I know you and I were working on that together at the last time Santiago. So I certainly think that that should be added, and and we also can also link the other resolution to this too. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I was out of Karen. That was the next thing I was gonna say, which I think we should do. We could just reference Matthew that previous resolution, whereas ANC 1B passed a resolution
Maybe
requesting.
is that
Uh,
how we start it?
yeah, actually, that probably would be a good way to start it. Kind of like we're restating something that we haven't heard back from you. It's been actually, you know what? It's September 14th, 2023 is when that resolution was passed. So that's almost 2 years. Maybe they did get back to me, but I don't have access to that email anymore, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, those are my only thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I think since it's been a topic we've talked about before, it makes sense to have potentially to have whereas we talked to you about this before as the first item, just so they it kind of shows them, oh, this is an issue they haven't dropped. It's an issue they still care about. I think that's a good intro. I can come up with the wordsmithing on that later. I don't want to do it live at 8:46. But that can
just as a point of clarification, so given what we just learned that some multifamily buildings do make people that are RPP eligible and some don't, would this resolution then only apply to folks who live in buildings where an RPP is already available to them?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just wanted to be clear.
Yep. Yeah, so in a neighborhood, then sometimes there's neighborhoods where there's not any designated parking, right? Like it's just open parking. So
yeah,
in those neighborhoods, nobody would need a permit.
Yeah.
Regardless of disability status.
Yeah, I think I was pretty sure. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't stepping over into a different issue, which is, RPP allocation. And that's I think that's muddying the waters. So just wanted to be sure I had the correct interpretation.
Yep. Okay, great. And yeah, and so this is for, and I'm gonna try to state it specifically, and Karen or Santiago, you can correct me if I get it slightly wrong. The program is for people who live in a neighborhood with RPP parking, residential permit parking, who are disabled and have the disabled parking placards and permits. It's for applying for a space on their street that is a reserved disabled parking space, but it's not reserved just for them, right? Like anyone with a permit with a placard could park there, correct?
The reserved spaces are reserved for the person who's applying for it. That's number one, because that's the way they work. Because DC makes you go through getting actual either a tag or a placard. And then they also make you pay for the parking spaces, as you already indicated. If you don't have to pay for RPP parking, that's another thing, but they make you pay for that, and they don't reimburse you even though you have no real true parking, because a lot of these buildings aren't built for it. They don't have underground parking. You have to park on the street, as been explained in that. So the persons who need this would be able to reserve a space, because that's the way it's set up on the street. And so that's why I was real specific, at least allow 1 in 20 spaces, and the opportunity for someone like Mr. Williams to be able to get a parking space, as well as his neighbor. So everyone who needs the space can get it.
Okay.
So it'll be like, when you forecast and look at how many actual reserved parking spaces do you have in a neighborhood, how many actual handicap associated spaces do you have in the neighborhood. 9 times out of 10, you don't have any handicap associated spaces, and I'm not referring to a handicap meter, a meter that can be used for handicap purposes at all. I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about for people who actually pay for the RPP parking. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. Please tell me I did.
I guess there's kind of two things, and this is something that, so in section 3, sorry guys, I'm jumping, but in section 3, where you kind of get to what you just said, the increase in designated disability parking spaces. Be it further resolved that DDOT shall conduct an immediate assessment of all district blocks containing multifamily housing and shall install designated disability parking spaces at a minimum ratio of 1 space per 20 residential units or 4% of total street parking, whichever is greater. And then prioritize installation near entrances, curb cuts, accessible routes, meet ADA guidelines. That's kind of, isn't that kind of different? Those spaces would just be like anyone with a placard.
Yes, those are anyone with a placard, and then also
Those aren't designated reserved, and so to me, those are kind of two separate issues, right?
they're okay.
They're related.
They're two sep. I'm sorry. I gotta hold on one moment, please, sir.
I'm not gonna steal Karen's thunder, but I think that is in of itself a different resolution. I think it's a good
Right.
idea, but I think maybe that's another day. I think I think I talked to you about this, Matthew, at one point. I can't find the resolution, but I swear that we passed a resolution asking DDOT to pilot designated handicap placard RPP spots. So not reserved spots, but sort of like,
Right.
oh, on this block there's, and they did a
Oh,
pilot in LaDroit. But I don't remember, but I think that would be a useful, I just think it would be a different
I
resolution.
think it's, yeah, so I think it's like the resolution is trying to do, I was trying to go to the one that you sent me from 2023 that we already talked about, just to show that one. But yeah, I think the increase in designated disability parking spaces, like in a residential neighborhood, like at the end of the block, having a space signed for ADA parking, like 1 space at one end of the block, 1 space at the end of the block, or whatever the appropriate ratio is an interesting idea, but it's different than the designated parking space that I think is, Karen,
oh,
what your
it's
intention of the original at the start of the resolution when you're asking that people be allowed to apply for this benefit, that's kind of different than the citywide assessment of is there enough disabled parking spaces?
okay. There is two components. One, they should not be discriminated to apply for a designated space. That's one thing in itself. That's one part of this. But then also the assessment of making sure that 1 in 20 spaces, there is a opportunity to have a disability space because of the simple fact that there is no disability parking spaces whatsoever, that people, even if they aren't if they didn't want to apply for that designated space, which they shouldn't be discriminated from doing, which that's I want to be make sure that that's really crystal clear. And then two, a person with a disability should not have to overly hunt down for a particular parking space if they need one that is accessible near wherever they're going to be. So this is applicable on 2 different levels, and I
Yeah,
thought that that was clear in this resolution.
I think
So,
I think at the top, I think at the top, because it's to ensure equitable access to reserved disability parking for multifamily housing residents in the District of Columbia, like that's one idea.
that's
And I think
correct.
that's a good idea, but that's the title of the resolution. And that's like our original whereas clauses. And then I think when we get to and the elimination of housing type discrimination, like anybody that meets disability requirements to have a disability placard and lives in multifamily, they should be allowed to apply for this benefit in the same way single family. I think that's one idea, and that's its own resolution. And then I think the assessment of whether there's enough ADA spaces across the city and to just start installing them so there's like an equitable balance of these for anyone with a placard to park there. They're not reserved. Anyone can apply to them. I think that is a separate resolution, and it would be stronger if they're 2 separate resolutions.
Okay, I mean, I'm not opposed to being that we end the day with 2 separate strong resolutions. I'm okay with that. I just want them both to be heard
Yeah.
and acted upon. So if you want to segment this resolution into 2 parts because they can both stand alone on their by themselves, I'm happy to you know, see that modification personally. But I would like the committee to also weigh in if they're also happy. I just want to see the action as always.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for committee feedback, and then I think but then my kind of opinion is, since that's kind of a big change, and because it's 9 o'clock, kind of what I would like to do is table the rest of the discussion for next month, but then next month we kind of have both resolutions. One would be multifamily ability for people to apply who live in multifamily apartments, so they're not discriminated against based off their housing. I think that's one good idea. And then the other good idea is the ADA spaces, and that would give Santiago time to find that other resolution where we asked about the pilot in LaDroit Park. It could be a good opportunity to follow up on the pilot and see what happened with that, and like see if the city is thinking about expanding it to other areas. And if they're not, or they are, we can say, we like that you're expanding it, or we think you should expand it. And that would be a separate resolution, but I think we should separate those out and then talk about them in October. Santiago's hand is raised.
No, I was just gonna, before you started saying that, I was gonna suggest that I think we should table this until next month, but I agree that we should look at it as two separate resolutions. In the meantime, we can follow up just to get more context, which I think can help with resolutions.
Okay.
I think it's awesome to do it like that because this is, you know, I really feel passionate about both issues personally, and I think that everyone who is going through this situation would certainly appreciate it, and it would be nice that the broader community who also can come in and weigh in on it if you publish it out, as this is a resolution that is being considered by the 1B commission, and everyone would notice how wonderful this ANC 1B is. We're doing such a fabulous um, overtake of this. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Okay, I feel good about that. Hopefully the rest of the committee feels good. Does anyone have any concluding thoughts for this evening that they would like to share? If not, then see you in October. You can always email me if something comes up before. And the meeting is adjourned at 8:58 p.m. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.